conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music, and gaming. Only on Hungama Game Changers Leadership Series podcast.
Hi, welcome to Hungama Game Changers 2025, a platform where we celebrate women who aren't just playing the game, they're changing it. I'm Raunaq from Hungama, and today's episode is part of our special leadership series where we speak with women shaping the future of entertainment, media, gaming, not just with ideas, but with infrastructure and with influence. Today's guest is a leader redefining how brands show up in gaming, how inclusion shows up in strategy. She's the Chief Revenue Officer at Wildfire, trailblazing company integrating brands into highly engaged Discord communities. Before this, she scaled Enthusiastic Gaming into one of the largest gaming lifestyle platforms. And she's also the founder of Raise Your Game, an initiative I'm very excited to have her tell us about. Please welcome Amanda Rubin. Amanda, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start with purpose. You've navigated gaming, advertising, a little bit of revenue strategy, all industries known for complexity, but also male dominance. So what brought you into the gaming space? Let's figure out how you got here to begin with, and then what made you stay.
Yeah, it's a good question. I started my career actually at a media agency. I wanted to do advertising always, but was guided towards media instead of creative agency because I actually had a mother that was an early .com e-commerce pioneer. And so she told me digital media is where I should start. So I started in digital media. And I pretty quickly realized on the agency side of it that I was not coming up with any of the ideas, that I was the one receiving ideas from publishers. And I wanted to be the one building the ideas. I've always had kind of a thirst for the combination of the psychology of marketing combined with creativity and overall strategy. So I went over to the publisher side. I worked for a company called Woven Digital, which at the time represented a lot of when millennials were the target audience before Gen Z came up. We targeted a lot of male millennials. We had properties like The Chive and Barstool Sports, Bro Bible, really big male properties in the US. I kind of fell into it because that team and those sales reps had worked with me when I was on the agency side. So it was my first job on the sales side. And I took the job. I loved it. I learned a little bit about sales planning, sales strategy, and then sales in that role. And it was over a decade ago now, about a decade ago in 2015, when a recruiter reached out to me from EA, like EA Games, EA Sports, and said, you know a lot about the male millennial audience. We're looking for some people to join our brand partnership team. We really want someone that understands this audience because we're going to be looking for brands to integrate into titles like Madden and at the time FIFA, NHL, right, but also titles like The Sims and mobile games like Tetris and Bejeweled. And it's funny, like, I don't think if you had asked me a decade ago if I was a gamer, I would have said yes. And I think that's how most of the population was, right? Like the population thought you had to be this kid in their parents' basement with, like the sticky Cheetos fingers and controllers to be a gamer. And it wasn't until I thought about like, oh, The Sims, like I grew up playing The Sims for hours. I mean, I would sit on my computer when I was a little girl and play The Sims for 4 or 5 hours on end at night. And so I had this like, this is a really cool moment. I love the world of gaming. I'd love to enter it. And it also feels like a fun challenge because it's this interesting niche within the world of advertising and creativity that has kind of a market association issue, right? Like there's this really big negative connotation with the industry. This was a decade ago. Right. But it's an industry that so many people actually love, and they don't think about it that way until they really start to dive into all the things that you get out of gaming. And so I took the job because I thought it was going to be really fun to integrate brands inside of these video games and come up with unique ways of doing that. But I also thought, like, what a fun challenge to get the market to understand why gamers are everyone. And it's a storyline that I can get behind. And as someone that can really put themselves in the shoes of kind of the underrepresented gamer, right? The female gamer. I thought, what a great opportunity. And the rest was kind of history. I was at EA for 4 years. I loved it. We were integrating brands into all these games, like everything from Pizza Hut, stadium naming rights in Madden, and Coca-Cola, story mode inside of FIFA, to, putting brands like Flonase inside of Tetris so that when you sprayed away the board, you could clear your allergies, clear the board, just like Flonase clears your allergies. So super fun, like, stuff. But after about 4 years, I realized like there's limitations to how much you can do in-game and in-game alone. So I went over to Enthusiast Gaming, where what we did was everything but in-game. So it was esports, it was influencers and content creators, it was custom content series, lots of websites and media opportunities, and kind of got back to my roots of what I was doing at Woven, which was you send me a brief and I can dream up the sky and come up with anything fun that aligns with your brand inside of an environment that is gaming. And I guess kind of like to give you the full circle here and like answer your question, right? What I've always found and why I've stayed with it is not because necessarily my core passion is gaming and gaming alone, but like the trajectory of gaming and defining the wild west of what gaming has been and how the industry looks at it and how people buy it has been so fun. It's gone from changing literally hearts and minds. I heard someone say once, and I loved it because it's getting people to understand that gaming is the largest entertainment industry and yet the least represented when it comes to ad experiences. There's very little ad dollars in gaming. And so it's this constant battle, uphill battle of getting brands and marketers to understand why they need to be in gaming, not when they have a brief that is about gaming, but when they just need to reach an audience, because gaming is the most engaged audience of people that are paying attention when they are in that forum. So that's kind of why I've stayed.
Immersed.
And it's immersive and it's fun and it's so cutting edge. And I mean, honestly, at this point, I've been going back and forth with this when people ask me like how, like, the IAB in the US does this big thing, the Play Fronts. It's been the 4th year. It's specifically for gaming media because gaming media is so big. But like my big question at this point is, should we be separating gaming media and gaming in general as gaming, or should we just be funneling it into the next form of social entertainment? Because the truth of the matter is, like, if you ask a Gen Z kid if they're a gamer, I don't know if their answer will be a gamer, but if you ask them the biggest social platforms they hang out in, the answer is not going to be Instagram or Facebook. It's going to be Roblox and Fortnite and Discord. And so they're on these gaming platforms, but they're not even gaming, they're socializing. Like, it's just an immersive form of social media at this point. So it's been fun to be on the cutting edge of an industry as it shapes.
Yeah, it is. And more interestingly, at what point did you realize the community is almost more exciting than the product?
It's a really good question. When I was at Enthusiast Gaming, this was probably about 2 years ago. I felt like our narrative was getting a little stale. Like so I'm somebody that, and I say this a lot, but like my trajectory of my career has kind of been in sales to now revenue leadership, but I don't really consider myself a really good seller. I consider myself a really good revenue leader. And I think those are very different things, because revenue leadership is really more about understanding go-to-market strategy, understanding a missing need in a marketplace, seeing the future of where the marketplace is going, and then defining a strategy that you have that fits people's needs, right? And so when I joined Enthusiast Gaming, I saw this need, which was everybody's confused about how to buy gaming from a marketer standpoint, right? Like, they want to show up in gaming, but they don't know how. When they do have a budget for gaming, they don't know where to begin. Is it influencer? Is it in-game? Is it media? Is it esports, right? Like, the list goes on. And so there was this opportunity at Enthusiast Gaming, because we did everything, to be the one-stop shop. So for a while, our narrative was, we're your one-stop shop, we're your shamans in gaming. Like, come to us and we will get you into the world of gaming in a 360 way, and you don't have to look any further. As time progressed at Enthusiast, I found a lot of other players were starting to do that too. A lot of people were showing up in the space, and I felt like our narrative was a little stale. Like, being the one and only, being a one-stop destination wasn't enough anymore. And so I really started thinking about what was the common thread that the industry started talking about and that gaming had in a way that nobody else did. And I think this must have been over 2 years ago, but I read Marcus Collins' book, For the Culture. Really, really good book. It's just all about cultural-based marketing, and the idea that if you follow a cultural trend, it's like your marketing is organic and it will live on, right? And I think one of the examples he used early on in the book was like, if you remember years and years ago, the Bud Light commercial where the guy calls his friends and he's like, "What's up?" And the other guy's like, "What's up?" Right? And like that commercial, at least in the US, that commercial like went crazy and people, it became a cultural moment, right? And so I started thinking about gaming as culture. There are cultural moments that are built in gaming, but why are cultural moments built in gaming? And so as we thought about it more and more, we realized that it's because of the community that surrounds gaming. It's because of the way these people speak about the game, build the culture around the game, talk about it with their friends, and then literally make friends because of that game. Like they build friends on virtual environments through those communities. And so we actually rolled out 2 years back at the Playfront at Enthusiast Gaming an entirely new narrative that was about it's all about the conversation and that we're moving away from one-stop shop and into a place where we own conversation. We are there where people show up to talk about the things that they love to do, right? And it was with that lens that I started really looking into conversation. What does conversation mean, right? What does conversation mean differently from when an influencer speaks at an audience to when a two-way dialogue is created between a community or a person and a brand? And how do you really break down that like I'm speaking at you to I'm speaking with you? So we spoke a lot about, and this is kind of my trajectory of how this strategy came about, but I was thinking a lot about respect and relevance in the marketplace, how advertising is typically disrespectful and interruptive. And gaming had this opportunity to not only be respectful and relevant, but literally additive, right? Additive to the game, additive as an ad experience. You kind of catch the double drift there, right?
Yeah.
But
Adds
and
to it.
value adding, right? Because truthfully, like everybody likes to gamify what they do. They like to level up in what they do. They like to be incentivized by experiences. And so that's where, again, is it gaming or can everything be gamified, right? And so I started falling into that space more and saying, like, where is there dialogue? Where can we find opportunities to be part of dialogue and organically place ourselves inside of it? And it kind of just naturally led itself that I met Logan, the founder of Wildfire. And what Logan was doing, which was so cool, was basically taking Discord communities, like compiling a network of Discord communities and finding ways for brands to show up inside the Discord community dialogue, which I just thought was so cool, so different. I liken it to like over a decade ago when YouTube started really building their UGC capabilities and the multi-channel networks started popping up around YouTube. And you had these networks that had 500 YouTube channels and you could buy media with them, but you could also sponsor influencers through these multi-channel networks. And that's really what we're doing at Wildfire. We're not on the media side of it. We're on the side of it, where come to us if you want to work with the Discord creator, which a Discord creator is not an influencer in the way you typically know an influencer. They don't have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel. They've created a community of 500,000, some of these communities members come together and they talk about games, they play the games, they chat, they talk about sub chat information, right? Like Discord, if you've ever been on it, and I'm sure some of the listeners have, it's like the Wild West even further, right? Because you've got servers and then channels and sub channels. And I mean, it goes on, but it's so cool and it's so raw and it's such a unique opportunity for a brand to show up. So what we've been doing at Wildfire, as I said, I just keep following like the wildest west that I can, is we've been basically productizing ad formats meant for dialogue. So we've been coming up with ways for brands to envision themselves inside of a dialogue. And what I mean by that is we can run a scavenger hunt inside dialogue. We can run competitions like UGC or in-game tournaments. We can incentivize people to play games. We can incentivize people to watch videos. And when I say incentivize, there's always an incentive because when you drop into a community, hey, you know, this brand showed up today and they're dropping a $2,000 cash prize for you. If you partake in this competition, you're going to get a lot of participants in that competition. But it's not just about the participation. It's about all of the organic chatter that comes with it, right? So what are all the keywords that are being dropped? What are the mentions that are happening? What are the emojis that are happening? And how does the brand take on a life of its own because of that cultural, community-based organic nature? I know that's a lot of information.
Amanda, no, it's a lot of information. And I think you put it really simply for people who, just are still trying to figure out where they need to go to have the right conversation in their Discords. But tell me, the chatter in Discords, it's mixed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have moderation tools, but I mean, from a brand point of view, that becomes a bit of a challenge. From a community point of view, that becomes it becomes a tightrope walk, right? So
Yes, it is yeah.
how do you sort of select a channel or pre-select a channel, but more importantly, how do you work with a brand to say this may happen, or the area around will not be as virgin sand as you would like. The
It's
sandbox.
a really good question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. And you're totally right. It is walking a tight rope, right? Like there's a very fine balance you want to strike between showing up authentically and showing up in a way where a brand is so scared about their brand safety parameters that you can't even be authentic within the community, right? So we have like 6 layers. We've got an entire slide in our presentation on brand safety. We've got a video because it is a huge question, right? Like I describe Discord to a lot of people that don't understand it as kind of like Slack meets Reddit, right? Like it's, it's wild and people can say whatever they want. And there's a lot of trolling in gaming and you kind of want to be prepared for the fact that people are going to say whatever they want in a social environment. And so there's kind of like 6 layers of brand safety that we walk our clients through. And then we also explain the ways and tiers of which we can kind of safely gate content. So basically, to start with, Discord has their own kind of brand safety guidelines, right? Like you can't talk about alcohol, you can't talk about gambling. There's like certain things that are just Discord rules. Then on top of it, there are community basically safety guidelines. So every time you join a community on Discord, they have
Yeah.
different rules to join their community, right? Which I actually think is very cool.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. It's totally different than any other social channel. It's not like if you follow this influencer, they're like, sign a waiver to follow me, right? But when you join a community, you're kind of signing a waiver. Like, and
Yeah.
a lot of
I'm
them have
letting you
very
in, but
different.
you're gonna have to behave.
Yeah. And I mean, they all have very different rules. Some of them are just like, be nice, like whatever that means, right? Others will be very specific, like there is no hate speech, there is no online bullying, there is no cursing, there is no political speak, right? Like it really depends on how intensive parameters these communities want to have, but they have them. We are aware of those. So then the third layer down comes to when we select those communities, we are aware of those parameters. And if there are specific brand safety requirements, like a brand that cannot allow any curse words and cannot allow certain things, we will follow kind of what we know to be true about the waivers to select those communities. Then there's 2 more layers. There's the actual community managers themselves as moderators, right? So, if a brand says to us, everything's fine, we want the conversation to happen, all is good, but like if this term comes up or if this cultural appropriation thing comes up, like this is not okay. We inform both our moderators of the community as well as our campaign internal team moderators to be aware the moment anything like that keyword trends, that comment needs to be removed. Like we need to make sure that that comment is removed. And sometimes on the side, even having the moderator inform that member of their community, like this is not okay, you can't do that again, right? In a side message. What we typically like to do is get people comfortable enough with the fact that if you give us your do's and don'ts, you make us aware of your brand safety parameters, that we can still allow a real organic conversation to form. And we don't want to have to block a conversation because dialogue is really what Discord's about. There are brands, however, though, that are so concerned about the dialogue that what we do instead is we just turn off commenting. And so instead we'll run some type of post where it's like, fill out this poll, comment with emojis, but we don't allow the commenting to happen. So like there are parameters you can put into place where based on how comfortable the brand is with the comments that might happen, you can put those layers in. It's actually really funny. I won't name the brand specifically for their own sake, but we worked with a gaming publisher recently that they were very concerned actually about how their game was going to come off in the marketplace because a few of the past iterations of the game haven't been great. And so we chose to do a like high impact giveaway model that really didn't allow room for commenting. It was really a more emoji based enter, follow Discords, watch videos. But one of our communities that ran the campaign thought that their community was going to love this game so much that they actually created like a side quest. And they created their own competition within the community on top of the competition we were already running, which had an entire custom channel about this game and allowed for anybody to comment about the game. And when we first saw it happen, we were like, okay,
Oh my
like,
God.
is this going to be okay? Like, we intentionally weren't allowing this to happen. And we told the publisher, like, this is happening. We're moderating it really closely. Are you okay with the fact that this is happening? This community really feels that this is going to be good for their audience. And that's the thing. Like, we really need to trust the community moderators because they know their community is best. And so they said, yes, we will let them do it. It turned out so good. There were thousands of comments in the channel. People loved the game. They were talking about the game. They were getting people to buy the game. And the amount of like keywords and social listening that we kind of pulled out of that was so impactful that hopefully the next time we run a campaign with them, they'll be more open to a dialogue-based initiative. So that was kind of a nice thing to see happen. But yes, that's a question that comes up very, very often.
Yeah, I can, I can imagine that. Now tell me, you've helped brands unlock gaming, not just as media, but also like as a culture. And but how should brands be thinking about gaming today? Not just as a stunt, but as a long-term channel, because let's face it, it's larger than most all the entertainment industries put together and music. And I mean, I think you've said that gaming has more reach than primetime TV. So what makes it
100%.
here, especially for like Gen Z audiences?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think like you'll see about 5 years ago, I feel like is when we started to see a lot of TV and movie franchises be based off video game IP, right? You've got The Last of Us and Fallout, and the list goes on of like movies being created out of game IP. I think at this point, and then you have the other way around, right? You have something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that's always been a TV series, but now they've got tons of games. The blurred lines in entertainment of what is a game and what is other forms of entertainment. I just think to the Gen Z audience, and especially the Gen Alpha audience, I have two Gen Alpha children, like there's no differentiation. It's the idea of games to these kids is that there's a way to play with an IP, right? And it's just another part of immersing themselves inside of IP. And so I think the future of gaming and the way we need to look at it is that gaming is actually where community and culture starts, right? Every IP will probably have a carry along game or vice versa. And I think we will reach a place not so far in the future where the difference and blurred lines between playing an IP, watching an IP, and partaking in the experience is all one vast immersive experience. And so at the core, like brands need to understand that gaming is not gaming. Gaming is the future of all of entertainment, community building, culture building, and immersive experiences. And so for them to have a real persistent presence in a place that is so immersive where people can actually interact with your brand, they need to start thinking about the most immersive of environments to be placing themselves in so they can be played with, right? Because these generations that are on the rise, what they wrap their hands around and their heads around and their visuals around is the ability to play inside of something, right? Like, and I think it definitely leads itself to virtual worlds, right? Like my kids could care less about going to a shopping mall, but like, I'm sure they're going to love playing inside of the world of Roblox. And so the brands that are doing this correctly are the brands that are realizing I'm not supposed to create like a one-off map environment in a Fortnite or a Minecraft, but I need an environment in every one of these immersive worlds, and it needs to be persistent. It's not like set it and forget it because we did it once for an ad campaign. It's build it because these immersive environments are the future of .com. Like these generations don't go to websites. They immerse themselves inside these environments. And I mean, we'll see, I think, retail media and shoppable commerce happening inside of these gaming environments and people not even going to website URLs. So it's really, to me, it's the future of all social commerce and immersive interaction.
So, since you've talked about Roblox, we had out of the Roblox world, we had the sandbox, and we had a flurry of activity in what will be a more immersive world, and in with the Web3 domains. Where do you see? I mean, it's become really quiet now. I suspect for the next 2 or 3 years, it will stay quiet till the tech catches up with, I think, imagination. But where do you see it coming back and combining in more immersive, but also digital consumption?
Yeah, I mean, from a Web3 perspective, there's a lot of like blockchain-based game studios right now that are building kind of games similar to Fortnite and Roblox on the blockchain. I think I'm really interested to see how some of the bigger immersive titles right now that I've mentioned that are not built on the blockchain, that are built on more of like the Unreal Engine and some of these other engines, like I'm very interested to see if that eventually transitions, like the Unreal Engine begins to transition more to a blockchain Web3 type environment, and how much of a heavy lift that is. Like, I'm not a technology person, right? So I don't know. But like I do think the future of where the world is going right now is decentralization, right? Like, and I don't just mean it from a technology and Web3 standpoint, but I mean it even from like a corporation standpoint. I think you know, if we use COVID as the catalyst, not just to gaming, but to decentralization, like it's proof that companies can form completely remotely and can exist as decentralized remote arms. They can exist as more democratic entities. So I think there's a lot there with how these pieces all will start to like bring together. I think the missing piece that's always existed in gaming, and it still does, but it will eventually get cracked, is there are different games built for different platforms, right? Like it's the age-old like PC Mac, it's Xbox, PlayStation, it's console PC, it's mobile versus PC, right? Like how do you build games that can transition to any different screen and any environment that you play them, and across different platforms. I that is where I still think the jury's out a little bit on will there ever be like one metaverse. I don't know if like you've ever read or watched the movie Ready Player One, right? Where the idea is that everyone exists in that one metaverse. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get there. But the idea, I think, eventually would be how can we be as decentralized as possible, but all as part of one common central thread and like woven like I'm almost thinking of like, you know, like how networks are interconnected, but they're all separate at the same time. Like that's just a little bit where I kind of see it all going.
Well, I think a lot of people are still looking once again to gaming to see. I think use cases that will also come in for, the rest of IRL. So I do think that I think it's going to stay slow for a while till it picks back up again. But I thought, since you talked about it, I thought I'd sort of check in with you.
It's also interesting. I'll add one more thing to the in real life, right? Like we're not seeing it too much yet, but like I am very excited for Kadea. Like I don't know, I don't know how much of the population actually really knows about it yet, but like the big Middle Eastern project around creating basically like the Disney World / Vegas of gaming, right? I don't want to say that everything's just going to be in game. There's going to have to be replication of in game in real life. So I'm very curious to see how as our technologies get more advanced in the world we live in, how do we adapt that in our experiences that we actually can feel and touch and not just like live in a virtual world, right? Because I am someone that's very much about the embodiment of like being in your body. And I don't want to be stuck in this screen. So my hope is we get to a place where like the screen is all around us, but we can feel and touch it and we can experience it with our bodies and not this thing that we're just experiencing with like our hands and our eyes.
Yeah, I think the world is the same way that you have the IoT that is so all pervasive right now. I do believe that we will actually have the ability to interact with just about every surface around us, right? Everything that's not organic can be interacted with. Of course, organic can be interacted with, but that's like
Yes.
in a totally different way. Um, so, one of the things that, because community is something that you talked about, even outside of the branding space, I mean, um, communities have in gaming have always been a lot more unfiltered. What that also often means is, like you said, a little more trolling, a little more not necessarily choosing to be so inclusive. I have a bunch of young women gamers that I speak to who will have these ambiguous names like Mystic Ignite or Ninja Player 3, simply because they don't want to actually, and then they will not talk into the headset, even though they play a great game, till maybe they hear another girl on one of the chats. And the reality is that from a community point of view, language in gaming has been gendered and not so
Mhm.
inclusive. How do we kind of get to a point where we're changing that?
Yeah. You know, I think it's a really interesting question. Like it's always going to exist, right? But I think this is just my take, and I understand that not every girl or woman is comfortable getting here, but I think it's actually more about us as women starting to take a more confident approach to the way we show up in the world, right? Because people that make those comments, the online bullies that say the things they say it out of a place of insecurity, right? These are not secure people that feel like knocking women down. These are very insecure people. And so how do you knock down an insecure person that's bullying you? You show up with confidence, right? And so instead of allowing them to make you feel less than, you make them feel less than, but not in a way where you're going low like them, in a way where you're just going high and proud and not letting it get to you, right? And so it's actually really funny. I was reading a really cute like meme the other day of a dad said that he played laser tag with his daughter and all these boys, and she chose to name her username a girl. And he was like, why did you name your username a girl? And she's like, so at the end of the day, when they look at the board, they can see a girl beat them, right?
Yeah.
Like show up with a girl, say, yeah, I am a girl, like watch me beat you, right? Like have the confidence to show up in the place, because the truth of the matter is the bullying's not going to stop. And I think I wish I could say it is, right? And maybe other people have different approaches, but my approach has always been, and I've experienced this from a professional standpoint too, in corporate America, right? Like there's always going to be men that are going to try to put you down, that are going to tell you you're less than. I was at a company, I won't state which one, that told me that I could not be on the executive leadership team because I couldn't handle the commentary of the boys club. And I was like, well, that's just ridiculous. Not only can I handle it, but clearly you guys are scared to actually talk about what you talk about in front of me, because I don't really think you're accomplishing anything at all. And so I turned around and I said to them, I think the problem is you guys are having conversations about nothingness, and you don't want me to know that you do absolutely nothing while I do all the work underneath you. So, and I actually said this to a leader at this company. And I said, if you want this company to move forward, you're going to put me on the executive leadership team, because I'm the only one that knows how to get this company into the next phase that it's going to. And if not, I'm going to leave, and that's your loss. Right? Like you've got to just show up in the room and say, I know I have this, I know my worth. And if you don't see it, that's not my problem. That's your problem.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, Tavi, you founded Raise Your Game to support women and non-binary talent in this space, right? Tell me about how you got inspired, what kind of impact it's had so far, and what's the overall intention for impact?
Yeah, so I wish that like it was still going. It was kind of a moment in time that we did when we were at Enthusiast Gaming, and maybe at some point I'll pick it back up because I really loved it. The idea behind Raise Your Game, there's a lot of inclusive, like for consumer, female-focused gaming environments and places for gamers to come and be together. Raise Your Game was actually directly built as a B2B functionality. It was built for female marketers, non-binary, and anybody that's honestly an advocate, right, or a partner in the space.
Ally.
An ally. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Anyone that's an ally in the space, right? Like it was really built for anyone, but it was meant with the B2B functionality of, there are a lot of marketers that don't understand gaming, specifically a lot of women, right? And they're kind of afraid to figure out how to start. Like they want to know how to buy in Fortnite. They want to know how to buy in Roblox, but they don't have a console. They don't want to go out to the store to buy a console to do the market research. And even if they did begin to play Fortnite, like they would have no idea what to do. So we created this safe environment at a local gaming center in New York City is where we did it, where all of our clients could come out and try these games for the first time, with a lot of the allies on my team at Enthusiast Gaming, a lot of them male, sitting down with these women and being like, I'll show you how to play Fortnite. Like, these are the moves. This is what I do. Here's how I walk you through it. And so it was actually meant a little bit more as like, how do we help the marketers understand where the players are, but in a way where they're not so afraid to break down the barrier of how do I understand what this is so that I can more aptly put my brands inside of it, right? And I think the ones that did show up for it, I gave them a lot of credit because they wanted to do right by their brand. They wanted to learn an environment they weren't comfortable in, and we gave them the safe space to do it.
Look like You don't want to look like the outsider who doesn't and show your weak hand, so to speak, because I mean, the reality is women do have to show up at work every day more prepared.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, listen, like everything I think in life is fake it till you make it, right? Nobody knows everything. It's, you have to know a few core things and know them in your gut with passion, and everything else kind of falls into place. Like I haven't played 95% of the games that I talk about, the communities in and sell into communities all day long, but I know enough about the world of gaming. I know enough about the competency of it. And then I know enough about the pieces of each of these types of games to speak to them. Like you don't have to like all of it, but you do have to take the time to understand it if you're going to try to do it right.
Okay, for women trying to get their foot in the door, what skills matter today? What's often underrated? What do they really need to do to be a part of this exciting, wonderful, but closed off industry that gaming seems to be?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I was having a chat with somebody the other day, and I hope I don't butcher his two C's, but it was competence and it was, I want to say the other one was connection. But basically, the idea is you need two things at the same time, right? You need to actually have a skill set. You don't need a crazy skill set, but like if you're going to be hired for a job, you need to know how to do the job you're being hired for, right? So if someone's asking you, can you be an account manager, the day-to-day back and forth with a client, you need to be organized, you need to be good client facing, you need to have good writing skills, right? So you like the basic skill set. I wouldn't say you need to be so advanced that you're like proficient in Microsoft Excel, right? Like you just need some basics. But at the same time, it's really all about the connections that you make. And it's not like nobody new in the space is going to have a million people that they know. Like connections are something you build over time, but you just have to have the ability to want to make connections. You have to take the time to want to reach out, to send a LinkedIn post to someone you're inspired by and say, tell me more, right? Like I can tell you, I, as a younger person, when I was in the industry, like I didn't really have a mentor for a very long time. I didn't really know where to go. And I would just send LinkedIn messages. I'd go like sit at panels, oversee them, see a really like badass woman talk and be like, she was impressive. And I'd send her a LinkedIn message and be like, I was so impressed by you. Like that was really cool. Maybe 1 in 20 of them ever answered me. And I have not forgotten that because almost nobody ever answered me. And even the one that maybe answered me, it was like, thanks, right? So I have made a concerted effort every single time anybody sends me a LinkedIn message, younger kid trying to break into the industry, to answer them. Because, like, how are you supposed to break in if nobody gives you your foot in the door? Like, I'm somebody that if you take the right action, I'm going to give you a reward for that, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there now around my generation that experienced what I've experienced. And I've heard them say similar things to me. Like, I make time for the people that want to make time for themselves and want to make time for their career, because those are the people that are going to go far. Like the people that give that extra effort, that aren't afraid to stick their head out a little bit, to try to push in an unconventional way. Like no one's looking at the 5 million resumes that you submitted, on a job site, but they're going to pay attention when you send a personalized message to them. So I would hope. And if they're not, that's not your fault. That's theirs, right? Like your fault being the person that's reaching out. But like,
I find 9 times out of 10 today, if you ask for help, you will get it.
yes. Which is
You just
something women do much better than men. It's like the running joke with my husband and I. Every time we're in a store and he can't find what he wants, I'm like, go ask the salesperson. They know exactly where that item is. No, I can't ask. I'm like, all right, well, then you're going to waste a lot of time. It's a lot more efficient to go ask the question. So you go right up to the salesperson and they tell you where the item is. Like, why wouldn't you ask the question? What's the worst that can happen? They don't tell you where it is and you're right back to where you started.
Yeah. Okay, talking about doors, gaming can be a powerful door, but it can also be a guarded gate. What kind of gatekeeping do you think women are still kind of facing in gaming? And how can platforms, publishers, and leadership help dismantle it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think having worked at EA, like less so on the media publisher side, but more so on the gaming publisher side, like the big gaming publishers of the world, I think there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens inside of those publishers. I wouldn't say it's normally gender-based. it actually just feels like a lot of these publishers are very flat organizations. I think there's a lot of fear in like letting people too close to secrets every layer up. And so it's very hard to grow the ladder inside gaming publishers. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but I have at least found successfully in my own career that if you hit a wall, if you hit a gate, and you try to push on it a little bit, you try to knock it down and it doesn't budge, go somewhere else. Like, don't bother trying to break down that gate because you could spend 10 years hoping that somebody notices you as you try to break down a barrier somewhere. Go somewhere where they recognize you, right? Like, I know it's such a simple answer, but like, don't be in the place that they've created a gate. And if you want to do the thing that they're doing, do it in a place that does accept you or do it yourself, right? Like, because I think what you realize as you get higher and higher up in leadership is that the people at the top really don't know any more than anyone else. They just somehow got to the top. And it's kind of a lesson you don't notice until you get there and you're like, wow, these people aren't heroes, they're people, right? Everyone's a person. And so it's just, again, it comes back to that confidence of like, when you hit a barrier, know that you've got to find another way around that barrier. And it's the same thing with sales in general, right? It's like when you can't get in the front door and the back door, like find a window, find the basement cellar, like find the way in. There's always another unique way in. Just be more creative with what that means because nothing's linear. There's no straight ladder. Like you've got to zigzag a little bit. But if you're willing to, beat around some obstacles, find some untaken paths, like I think you will find success a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's like that Pretty Woman scene, right? When you don't get served at one store, go to another, and then come back and say, big mistake. Big, huge.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You'll get served somewhere. So just stop wasting your time in the place you're not getting served.
Okay. Tell me, you're a revenue leader, but everything you seem to be doing is around creativity and community, right? How do you balance this need for commercial success with the creativity and community aspects of whatever it is that you are trying to do within a space or a platform?
Yeah, it's funny. It's been my entire career in media has been all about creative content within media, which is like a very, I don't want to say niche, but it's the road less traveled because it's harder, right? In a world where big tech and big platforms have taken over and programmatic has taken shape, programmatic media buying and automation and ad tech, that's easy, right? It's easy to sell quantitative data. It's nobody disputes it. It's straightforward, but there's no fun in it, in my opinion, right? So I've always gone down the road of everything I do is qualitative. There has to be something custom and unique to it. So it's exactly the balance, right? Like everything about hitting quotas at every company I've ever been at has been about coming up with a creative idea because I'm not selling some straightforward piece of technology. I'm coming up with a unique solution that nobody else has ever come up with. It's harder, right? Because a unique idea doesn't scale over and over again. It's a lot harder.
How do you scale that? That's exactly what I wrote down.
So you can't scale necessarily the idea over and over again, right? If you come up with a great idea that has sustainability to like be built with more iterations around it, wonderful. And sometimes that happens. But other times it's less about coming up with an idea that can grow and more about how you manage the relationship with that client and them knowing that you will always be coming up with new and fresh ideas for them to grow, right? So it's the retention of the client more than it's the retention of the idea. And it's the understanding from the client that you will consistently deliver on cutting edge ideas that will drive success for them so long as they trust you, right? And retention is all about trust and about the building of relationships. Sales it's all about trust. It's the opposite of like the used car salesman, like, sleazy reputation. It's about being transparent, being authentic, and about, being really, really straightforward with what you can provide for that person at that time and why that helps them. And if you're consistently helping a client meet needs and objectives, they will consistently keep coming back to you.
Right. Okay. Tell me, DEI has gone from being a virtue to a vice. And everything's, I think, up in the air. But on the ground, more than as an agenda or as a DEI, have gaming companies become more diverse, more inclusive and more varied, or is it mostly just still performative?
You know, I think it's a company by company thing. Like when from a national standpoint, DEI was kind of fizzled, which like, hurts my heart as you said that. It becomes the onus on a brand to decide how they want to show up, right? And I think brand building now, especially in America more than ever, is so important because if a brand decides to show up with DEI without needing to, that matters so much more, right? And if they don't, they're also making a stance about what they feel is necessary and what they believe. There's a lot of brands that said, this isn't necessary anymore, we're not doing it. And there's a lot of people that are paying attention to the fact that they're not
Yeah.
doing it and they're losing a very big audience. And maybe they're gaining a different audience, and maybe that's not the audience that they want, like that resonates anyway, right? So I think we're seeing a lot of division. It's obviously not a great climate at the moment, but it's also a great opportunity for individuals. That's why when I was saying, like, I see the future of this world, I think things always have to get really bad before they get better, right? Like change never happens when things are good. Change happens when things are bad and it needs to change. Like we saw that with COVID, we saw the way we work changing. I think we're in an exponential society with AI growing and the world being so globalized to a way that nobody's ever been so interconnected before. And everything that's been happening from a world macro perspective, I think leans itself to the fact that maybe we're leading towards a place where like humanity starts to figure out how they band together instead of geography or geographic guidelines, right? And so I don't know. I have hope for after things get messy, a future where things get more decentralized in a way where people align with, if we go back to community, right? Where people align with the places that they resonate with and everybody kind of lives in the pods that make sense for them. And like, so long as people live in their own environments that resonate for them with the brands that work for them and it doesn't bother other people, then I think like everyone's just going to kind of find their place. And that would be my hope. But of course, I'm more of a dreamer and somebody glass half full. So there's really to me, there's no benefit of thinking about the negative because it just doesn't accomplish anything. So I'd like to think about all of the positivity that can happen from negativity.
Okay. In that case, tell me about a career mistake that taught you something essential, something that you today carry as wisdom with you and take it with you wherever you go.
Oh, that's a good question. A career mistake.
I mean, we all make mistakes, and I think
No, I
if
know.
you
I'm trying to think about it. Is there like
more
one?
mistakes than the next guy because everything happens so much faster. We make more mistakes, we make them faster, we learn from them.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think a mistake I made is and I've made it a couple times in my career actually, is I didn't take the advice I just gave like 10 minutes earlier, which is I hit a wall, right? Or I hit a gate and I stayed for too long. And for me, I think staying longer than necessary, like did not move me forward. It started to make me break down, right? Because like people thrive when they're environments where they feel they have the ability to grow. And the moment that my growth was stifled and I stayed in a place where growth was stifled, I didn't grow, right? And I think that that's probably happened to me at least twice in my career. And so for me, it's really about knowing when to leave before it gets too late to leave, right? Like when you don't want to leave after everything's been spoiled. You want to leave while things are still good. You've left a good legacy and you're ready to move on to the next thing. And kind of like make those moves a little faster. And so I would say what that has led to in my career is always looking for a job, right? And I don't mean this in a way of like my founder should be concerned that I'm leaving, right? But like even when you're the most happy in a role you're in, you should always be networking and you should always be looking at all of the opportunities and having irons in the fire because you always want to be in a place of what are more opportunities that are going to reveal themselves because I'm in the marketplace externally and not just like I'm comfortable inside of this role.
yeah, I know. And if it doesn't mean may not lead to your next job, it may just lead to your next collaboration.
Well, that is the truth of the matter. Like a lot of the times for me now in this role, right? Like being external just leads to more partnership opportunities. It leads to more thoughtful ways to collaborate. It leads to introductions from people I know through people I know. So it's like not sooner building an external brand was a mistake, right? Like you should be, even if you're 22 and just graduating college, you should be building your external brand right now. Like you should be posting on LinkedIn, you should be getting yourself out there. Like don't be afraid to spread who you are, because the more you begin to define who you are and figure it out, the more interested people are in you, because you're unique and you've got a POV.
Okay. Tell me, I think you touched upon this, but how do you get accepted into the bro club or the bro culture? There's a it and it's invisible, and very often it's not intentional. I'll even go as far as that. It's the ability for someone to talk to the man sitting on your right, even if that man is a part of your team. But also about making sure that when you're in that room, you don't have to represent, you just have to be heard.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of goes back to confidence, right? But confidence comes from internal power, and it comes from an internal calm, right? So you have to know that you belong. Like you have to tell yourself in your internal dialogue, I belong here, right? And if you walk into a room where you don't feel like you belong, you need to figure out why you don't feel that way, and you need to fix that problem inside yourself, because it's not that you don't belong, it's that you think you don't belong, right? Like, and I think it's with that mindset that you need to know, every girl, woman needs to know you belong absolutely everywhere, right? And it's that simple, but it's the knowing that the moment I was able to flip that switch of any room I walk into, I belong into, here I am, right? And in a moment, like if I'm sitting in a room with a lot of very powerful men on a board, right? And it's me, and you get that like nervousness inside of you of like, why am I here? Do I deserve to be here? Do I belong here? It's like, you do, you're sitting in this room, right? And I think, not to get a little like energetic with this, right? But I think breath work is such a simple thing. Just like take a deep breath, like feel it inside of you, calm your nerves down. Like everybody's probably nervous too. Perspective is everything, right? Everybody's got a different perspective. No one's going to walk away and see the same situation in the same way you saw it. Everyone tells themselves a different story. And so it's just like sit with it and show up and know that you're good. And I think knowing that you're good, in all fairness, is not just like being cocky and full of ego, right? It's not just like, I'm amazing, here I am, right? Because that's not well received either. It's if you know your facts, right? If you walk into a room and you know you have the right answers, you hear things being said and you have an opinion that makes a difference and you know it, use it. Like show up, use the information you have, combine it with confidence, and show up. And the moment that you do, everything kind of dissipates. Like I don't think like men are not a really scary thing. I think for women, like they seem like these strong macho people, but like they're so simplistic.
No, I agree. It's just that, I somebody told me the other day, I want the confidence of a mediocre man. And I started laughing, and then I thought, oh my God, I should cry. That's terrible and true.
You know where I've gotten a lot of confidence from, if I really think about it? I mean, I will say naturally, I am somebody that has always been very confident, but I have found in my career, my being able to enter rooms, not just with men, but with powerful women too. Because by the way, powerful women to me are the scariest. Like a powerful woman is powerful, and that is cool. Like that I think is awesome. But I have joined a lot of female networking communities over the course of my career. Most recently, right now, I'm in She Runs It, which is an advertising community. And I'm also part of Chief, which is a female executive community. And I found the more time I spend in like peer advisory and groups with these women where 7 or 8 of us get together and we talk about challenges, hearing every other woman give the exact same perspective that I've basically had about the same situation is so validating and so confidence building. And then you kind of know, like, it's not just me, it's everyone. And I think, so from that perspective, like what I can tell any woman is whether you're in She Runs It or Chief, or you've got a group of best girlfriends, like surround yourself with the girl power, let them amp you up because they will, and then walk into the situation. Like if you're afraid about the situation, let them give you the energy to show up because they will. And I think it's a really important thing for women to show up for each other, so that you feel like you can show up in the world.
important. I remember I was doing a panel at the Apple offices, and there was a lady in the first row in the audience, and she asked me a question, and she started by saying, "See, I have this app. I have a developer who helped me develop it. I'm not really part of the tech community." So I was just like, okay, hold on. Before you ask your question, stand up. And I was like, you've been selected in a group of 80 entrepreneurs who are here because of the app that they built, and Apple wants to see them succeed. I don't know how to say this to you, but welcome, because you are a part of the tech community. And I
It's so
remember
true.
that, I could see everybody uncomfortable because I had put her on the spot, but I was just like, oh my God, if she needs the welcome, she's getting one.
You're here. Like, look around you, right? I think it does take a little bit sometimes to just slow down and remind yourself, like, there's a reason why I'm in this room. Like, I wouldn't be in this room if somebody didn't think I was supposed to be in this room. So that's why I'm here, right? And I'm that way with, there's a different industry I'm very interested in. It's like a side hobby, right? And I told a woman recently, I was like, and I'm a total noob here. Like, I don't know anything. And she just turned to me. It's very similar. She was like, well, you know, this, and this. She's like, you're not a noob. She's like, you know so much more than you think you do, right? And so you always get that humble reminder when you're in a place that you feel less comfortable, that you know more than you think you do. So like, whether it's write it down before you walk in the room, like, here's all the things I know, here's why I feel like I should show up, right? Like, whatever you have to do to convince yourself, because you probably have to convince yourself more than you have to convince anyone else.
But I think that actually worked for me for many years. I know that I prepared a little bit more for a meeting. I think I sometimes still do. But for many years, I would write 10 points and put it in my pocket that I knew would come in handy in a meeting. Just because, you're in a big meeting, you think you don't want to be too big for your britches, but you've got big shoes to fill. And I think this is all things that go on in your head. I've been a part of gaming since now 16, 17 years. Sometimes at GDC, I'm standing in a room and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And I know that I belong. And this is, after years of not only being a part of it, but also being a part of conversations and groups and networks, and still kind of feeling it. So I do feel that imposter syndrome is real. It's inherent. I see it in young girls. I had these two young programmers who came and said, you said we should have greater peer connections, but once or twice we went to have lunch with everybody, but we didn't know what to say. It was just such a sweet and literal question. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to suggest a couple of things you can talk about at lunch. This is above my pay grade, but yeah.
That's so funny. It is really true. I mean, it's funny you mentioned GDC, because I went to GDC this year. And I kind of had this like interesting epiphany at GDC this year, because it was the first time I was at like a gaming related event where I feel like every single room I walked into, whether it was, at the Marriott Marquis or inside the convention center or at the bar over here, I ran into someone I knew. And I was like, the moment the world starts to get smaller and smaller for you, the moment you feel like you're a bigger fish in a smaller pond, right? And so when you were talking about you being at GDC for 15 years, like, for me, I think the moment I really started to lose imposter syndrome in full is when I felt like I had friends everywhere. And so it's almost the idea of like, if you're not comfortable being a small fish in a big pond, start as a medium-sized fish in a smaller pond, right? Make some friends in that pond. Take those friends with you to the next pond, and like, make every pond you enter a little bit smaller, because you've got a network of friends there with you. Because the more people you know, the less it feels scary to you, and like, you don't know the world. Like, every time I walked into a room and I was like, oh, this is a little weird, I don't know anyone, someone would say hi, and it was like reminded, like, a lot of people, you've been doing this a long time, right? Like, and that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to be like, I've created this network. It makes me think of just like, I get by with a little help from my friends, right? Like, every time you get that little positive push, you get that extra person that sends you that message, it just makes you feel like there's more people behind you. And I think that gives you power.
Yeah. I think it absolutely does. I also think that one of the things that it does is that it makes you feel like there's somebody here who you feel seen, witnessed, appreciated, just acknowledged. It's
Yes,
I think it kind of holds you.
it does. It does. I agree.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda, for your time, for your insight, for your candor. I think in your career, you've not just opened doors, but you've kind of redesigned some of the rooms you've been in. And it's really been a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Hungama Game Changers 2025, and I'm Raunaq from Hungama. Thank you for tuning in to our celebration of women who are not just playing the game, they're changing it.
In conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music, and gaming. Only on Hungama Game Changers Leadership Series podcast.